Alright, hello. So, I wanted to have a bit of a discussion about tanks and paladins, because I feel like that they've gone a pretty downhill slope for the last half a year to a year, and I wanted to talk about a bit of a weird idea I had to try and make them better, while at the same time preventing them from causing problems. Because let's take a look at tanks as they are now. We have a pretty big variety of them. You got tanks with barriers, you've got tanks with temporary, like, invincible barriers, you've got tanks with no barriers whatsoever, and you've got some with personal barriers. And each one has a different purpose. The problem I find with this current system is, say, you could easily not blink an eye at someone for running Terminus as a solo tank, but if you run Ruckus, or Rom, or Torvald, then most of the time you're considered picking a very unoptimal setup, because some of these tanks are widely seen in the community as being basically unfit to do their jobs on their own and require a second tank to be effective. And I feel like that is a huge problem. No character should rely on another character existing in the match just to function as intended. And so, I feel like all tanks should be able to walk on their own 2 feet. And they should also feel like they should feel stronger. Like, most tanks do very menial damage, like Khan here. He got some buffs a little while back to his damage a little bit, made him feel a bit better. But like Rom, he does like next to no damage with his minigun. It takes him so long to kill anyone. It's kind of silly. And he's constantly feeding the enemy ult charge because he has no barrier. So that it's kind of like the Roadhog situation in Overwatch. But you know, the way Overwatch is doing things has given me a bit of an idea. Now, Overwatch balances their tanks and all their characters by having a set amount of each character type you're supposed to have in the match. And this, while some people don't like the system, and the system does have its flaws, it does make balancing the characters a lot easier, because you don't have to account for every single team combination ever created. You only have to do the focus around the ones that are possible, which are not as many because you're only allowed to have a specific number of each character type. Well, I kind of think a similar situation would help out with the tanks and paladins. I think that, and this is a bit of a weird change, so bear with me, I think that instead of adding a role queue system like Overwatch does, make it to where tanks specifically, once a tank is picked on each team, no other tanks can be picked. And there should be just one. Now, it is kind of a weird idea, and it will basically remove the double tank meta. But the thing is, I mean, well, you know, any chance of the double tank meta, I should rather say. Double tank meta hasn't been a thing for a while. But, like, for instance, Yagarath here is kind of in balance hell right now, and so is Torvald. Like, Yagarath came out, and people complained about her, and blah. Personally, I think people were way overreacting, and characters like Tyra were still deleting her without a second thought. But now she's just like, I don't really see hardly anyone play her anymore, and whenever I do, she just gets melted, so, I mean, go figure. And the devs don't know what to do with her, because the problem is, if you stack Yagarath with like another tank, and you have one tank holding the point, and Yagarath bullying squishies in the back line, well, that's just a lot of meaty health that the enemy team has to go through. Now, if they're running someone like Tyra, this bullshit right here, or her, then it's not that big of a deal, because they can chew through the enemy's health without having to deal with healers and stuff very well. But it sucks to play the tanks. And then you got people like Atlas who don't really do solo tank very well because they can't last on the point long enough. He hits hard, but he's a lot squishier than most of the other tanks. And so I think that if we set a strict limit of one tank, then Hi-Rez could balance the tanks like in a way where the tanks can be very powerful units, but you don't have to worry about massive death ball metas result, and you won't have to deal with a bunch of shield stacking teams and shit like that, which would be just better for everyone overall. Because in my opinion, the only way a tank feels satisfying is if the tank feels like he is the most powerful unit overall on the field. And that only makes sense. I mean, the tank is the big bad thing, you know, the big badass that you're supposed to take down to cripple the enemy's defensive position. The tank is supposed to be the anchor who holds the point and protects the team. And I feel like with a single tank system, you could have all that, and every tank could perform their role, but they could be exceptional at it. But I mean, like, look at DPS for instance. You got people like Tyra over here who has ungodly levels of DPS, and one of her talents is the biggest tank shredder in the entire game and gives her massive point control. On top of that, she has the biggest health pool of any squishy character outside of a tank, and it's just silly. Like, and then you got Princess Auto Aim here, most hated bitch in all the realm, and for good reason. And then you got people like Sati. Sati's pretty cool. She does a lot of damage, and she can move around, turn invisible. And, flanks, they're their own. Like, I can make a whole nother video about flanks and how they've been designed lately, but tanks is the main topic. So I feel like Hi-Rez should take some time and either make a PTS or something, like touch up on some tanks, put out a PTS where you're only allowed to pick one tank per team, and see where it goes. The double tank meta is not really a thing anyway, and I think and I've noticed a lot of people in a lot of my games refuse to play tank outright. And I know that it's systematic of the fact that tank is overall the least fun role to play. Tanks don't feel like they do enough to impact the game. They feel like they just sit there and absorb damage for the team while poking at the enemy team a little bit, being a big old distraction. Now, for a while, that was fine, especially when the double tank meta was a thing, but at the same time, tanks, ever since they changed Cauterize for the first time, have been kind of struggling for their place. And I don't really feel like it's fair, especially as someone who enjoys playing tanks quite a lot. I mean, as you saw, I've got like 3 or 4 of them gold.
Sati.
So, I really am thinking that we should try this. If you have any other ideas, then let me know, but I've been really thinking about the situation lately. And I've been thinking about a few key points in this game which I feel could use drastic improvements. There's Cauterize, which the devs have already officially announced that they agree Cauterize is bad for the game, and they need to figure out what to do with it. And I'm so glad to hear them say that, because I haven't been using Cauterize for the last couple of months. I've been boycotting the item entirely, because I feel like it's extremely unhealthy for the game, it runs the game and its meta way too much, and it's just a very boring and uninteractive item. I like the other items that are more fun and give you more utility. I feel like that's what items should do. They should give you some small utility bonuses. They shouldn't be defining the meta of the game. And I feel like tanks are the biggest victims of that. Cauterize and Wrecker are the biggest reasons why tanks don't feel good to play. Because tanks get melted without their healers, and then the healers can't do their job if Cauterize is built up, and then Wrecker prevents the tank from hiding behind their shield to get rid of Cauterize so that their healers can heal them properly. It's a vicious cycle, and it constantly forces the devs to waste time and resources readjusting the values of items just to make tanks feel better. Like, they're in the next patch, they're buffing the new veteran, which increases tank health, which only tanks buy, frankly. And it's because, yeah, it doesn't feel good. It's not worth the investment, because tanks just get melted anyway. So, I'll continue on with some gameplay, but
why, hello there.
That's basically my thoughts on the whole tank thing. I figured I'd throw some gameplay in while I'm farming the double champion XP.
4, 3, 2.
But as I said before, if you have any other suggestions, anyone, let me know down in the comments. Like, I would really like to open a discussion about this. I think this is something that needs to be talked about, and I feel like it would just help a whole entire class of characters get out of a bit of a rut.
Enemy killing spree.
At least Rom's tough. But it's only lasting this long because he's not really doing much. Oh my god.
This is so
I'm just so distracted trying to talk. Heal. Yeah, this guy, this dude on the
Drop.
Enemy rampage.
Lex is not
Enemy
exactly
double kill.
very active with
Capture point spawning in
How was I not hitting
15
him there? I
seconds.
could have sworn I was aiming right at him.
My apologies.
Weird. Do we have any bots? No. I'll build it. Well, maybe.
Lend a hand, did I?
It doesn't say that Corvus disconnected, but he hasn't bought a single item. Do that. Well, he's dead.
Enemy is unstoppable.
Keep me
Damn.
going.
I can't believe I didn't get her.
You know that was mine.
Ah, shit. She has the exploding ones. I haven't seen very many people run that one. Look at that. Nope, within a
Our
second.
enemy is
Terminus
savage.
felt like he had no impact whatsoever. Granted, no character would really in that specific situation.
I have
Keep it on
judged
balance.
this world.
It's kind of silly.
Thanks.
The ROM's holding down pretty well though.
Leave the corpse. Take the
Capture point spawning in 15 seconds.
That's where it was hiding.
They're behind us.
Killing capture point has spawned. Double kill.
Oh, get fucked. Oh hell. I didn't realize the point had spawned. But that's okay, I'm good. Oh, you're hiding in a corner.
Rampage.
Flankers. Back off.
I mean, look at this. All the shots I got put into him, and I still win the fight. Just because his damage is so low. Ooh. Okay.
Kneel.
Eyes forward, ladies.
How much CC do they have? Not much.
Enemy double kill. True power.
Back off. Just what I needed.
That will help me with Princess Auto a little. Take out their healer.
That's 7 in a row.
No leaving so soon.
I can't win this.
Capture point spawning in 15 seconds. Enemy killing spree.
Oh, gotta get out of here.
Capture point has spawned.
Get rid of that.
That worked. Just what I needed. You know that was mine.
Some of these I have no clue how they don't hit.
Thank you, healer. Help the good boy.
Oh, so much for that. Also, I think those clones should be placed at the end of the animation, not wherever you started it. It's wonky as shit. I don't know if that's intended or if that's just gonna stop these bugs. Because I know she has a few of them. That doesn't go well for me at all. Okay. It's always fun.
You can't beat good taste. Around back. Thanks, love.
Capture point spawning in 15 seconds. Enemy killing spree. Capture point has spawned.
What is this?
Eyes forward, ladies!
Oh, this is so tacky.
Yes, more.
Just what I needed.
You want to be this tall to die.
That's
This tall.
Leaving so soon.
Flankers.
Enemy killing spree.
Leaving so soon. Thanks, love.
I'd like Thank you.
Capture point spawning in 15 seconds.
Eyes forward, ladies!
Capture point has spawned.
on
Over here.
Stand still. Very good.
Ooh, yes.
Can't take that too long on. Why is no one?
I must return.
Close one.
Take the light.
Kneel!
That's 5 in a row.
Damn.
Dead.
He's doing his
Enemy double
annoying
kill.
little antics.
Capture point spawning in 15 seconds.
I'm back.
Eyes forward, ladies! Maximum effort!
One I can rectify. I see.
Capture point
You can
has
have that
spawned.
one. Leaving so soon. Thanks, love. Leaving so soon.
Oh, what? He was around the corner. Okay.
Power of undead!
Yes,
Interesting, then.
No one is surrender.
Higher price, higher quality.
that worked.
Damn. I couldn't get out of that one.
Help that tank.
lost this one, but that's fine.
Capture point spawning in 15 seconds.
Just
Oh
what
my
I
gosh,
needed.
potatoes. Ah. They just barely kept her alive long enough.
Capture point has spawned.
Oh yeah, she's also got a ton of life for it. That would explain
I'm
it.
back.
You have failed your king.
Still, I did well enough. 107k damage. I'll take it. So, yeah. That does... but yeah, that does kind of conclude my overall thoughts on the tank situation. Like I said, I would really like to open a discussion about this because I feel like it really could be an interesting avenue for the game to take, and it would definitely allow for the tank characters to be made stronger without fear of them stacking on each other, which I think would alleviate a lot of the tank's problems overall. Especially since double tank isn't meta anymore anyway. I think this would just be the best opportunity to go for it. Anyhow, thank you all for watching, and let me know what you think down below in the comments, and if the devs or any of the devs by chance see this, think about it. I feel like I have some interesting ideas that could at least be tried internally, but I think a PTB on this would be very helpful and very insightful, at least. So yeah, I hope all of you have a very good rest of your day, and I'll see y'all later.